One big thing that I wrote across the top of the board after those couple days was we want to be an authority. We want to be a resource. We don't just want to sell. And of course we want to do business with these people, but we want to be able to provide value, and we're doing that.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing on this beautiful day? I tell you what, man, it is March, but it sure feels like July or August. It has just been a scorcher. It's been hot. It's been warm. Pool's already 85 degrees. We're swam in it all weekend long. Got a little bit more sun than I wanted to, but hey, the joys of having the outdoor life. Today, we have a special guest on us, Mike Davis. He's with Hilltop Signs and Graphics. Another fellow sign guy, grew up in the industry like myself, and we got to talk, and I was like, Mike, we got to put this on a podcast. We can't just be yapping to ourselves all the time. So Mike, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey man, I appreciate having me, Aaron. Very excited to get down to it and hopefully share some knowledge with everybody and, the ups and downs of the sign industry.
Oh, definitely. So right off the bat, I thought I was young at 13 years old getting into the signage business, but you got me beat by a few years. How old were you when you first started working in the sign world?
So first started working, I guess you could technically still call it the sign world, but I was probably 8, 9 years old, reloading printers, watching machines run. It was the type of thing where if I was sitting there hanging out, doing homework or doing whatever, and the machines were up there running, my parents would be doing something else that had to get done. They were like, hey, if this thing stops running, come get me. Or, hey, load paper in it, just to keep the jobs moving and that type of thing. So that was my first introduction to anything sign or graphics industry related, was that I was a babysitter.
Oh man, already in the production trenches before you even hit double digits.
That's right.
Single digits, already pumping in paper and everything else. So 1993 was the first time that Hilltop came online. Is that correct?
Yes. My parents started the company, and if you ask my mom or dad, they'll both kind of tell the exact same story. They'll say that they started the company for beer and pizza money, and it just kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. Hey, when they don't need a paycheck, they don't need a livelihood. It's just a fun side hobby. It's probably where more enjoyment comes from at the end of the day. And then over the stress and over the bills, you're like, hey, it's a hobby. It's fun. Let's just do it when we do it. But it grew pretty fast. From what you and I were talking about earlier, you guys didn't say no to anything. And I really do mean that. I mean, when you talked about Christmas ornaments and whatnot, can you expound upon what your demographic was back in the days?
Yeah. So when we first started, and my parents had it, the early days was a lot of old school, paper printing, notepads, stationery, wedding invitations, matchbooks, ad specialty type stuff. That was kind of the bread and butter of the company. And they grew it from doing the paper stuff, supplying local businesses with branding pieces, that type of thing. It grew relatively quickly, I would say within 8 to 10 years, to not just doing those things. From a business support side of things, just the list of products that we were offering just kept growing. Somebody would come in and say, man, I can't find somebody good to do this particular thing, whether it's yard signs, decals, whatever it was. Couldn't find somebody to do that type of thing, and that's why we added products. Same exact thing like you were saying with the Christmas ornaments and coffee mugs. It was the type of thing where a heat press and a die sub, setup was purchased for doing one type of product. And then it very quickly was like, what else can we make with this thing? And then it snowballed into a ton of other stuff. So that's where we got into doing a little bit of trophy work, plaque work, Christmas ornaments, coffee mugs, t-shirts for a while. You name it. We already had the equipment. How can we make this stuff make money?
Mm-hmm. I could see that. And I'm not going to lie, trophy sounds fun. You get the kids a little baseball and whatnot, you get their name on there. You know how much smiles you're going to bring to the faces. Like, I'm not going to lie, if I could get in trophies, I would, just for the giggles of the smiles on the kids' faces. I really would.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, we didn't do as much of T-ball style trophies and that type of thing, as some other shops did. We did a little more custom side of things, but yeah, I mean, you're pumping out, 20 some pieces, 30 pieces, 40 pieces for a team. I mean, and then everybody's getting them on a Saturday morning, that type of thing. It was definitely cool being able to be a part of projects like that.
Yeah,
But I tell you what, the margins on those types of projects, as we realized in the later years, they just don't hold up, when you have high overhead. You start adding bigger piece of equipment, employees, and all these various things. It gets tough. It gets hard.
it does. There's no doubt about it. So when at the height, which I'm going to say is the early 2000, 2001, 2002, somewhere around there, you guys probably had a book the size of the Cheesecake Factory's menu of all the different things that you offered. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would say it was probably a little bit later, because we moved out of the house, out of my parents' house and garage, to our first retail spot in 2006. So
Okay.
we were still very, very heavily doing gift items, doing trophy work, doing commercial printing. But then we were picking up a lot more signage and graphics business. We were doing full wraps, partials, lettering. We bought our first wide format in 2005. So the catalog and the number of products and different things that we were offering was massive. I mean, we were still spiral binding stuff, and we were, burning CDs to go inside of custom folders. And man, it was really, really cool because, this industry every day, no matter what you do, is very, very different. And that's what I love about it. But I tell you what, back then, it was every 20 minutes could be very different. And it was a lot.
I bet. I bet. I couldn't even imagine having that much stuff where you're burning a CD one day and the very next day you're doing a t-shirt, the very next day you're doing a trophy like that. That's a lot, a lot. And your knowledge of all those pieces and how they fit together so it looks epic at the end. That's some serious brain power knowledge right there. As in most companies don't offer that plethora because frankly they just don't have the manpower to understand how they go together in such a way that you can be profitable. So that's a lot. That's a lot, a lot. Now, you're cruising with the family business, you're doing your thing, but as you and I both really realize, we're both entrepreneurs, and you beat me to the punch on this when we were talking earlier was you couldn't wait for mom and dad to get out of the road. And you were just like, I got to do something. I got to make my mark on the world. So walk us through that. What happened there?
So I never had any intentions of being a long-term part of the family business. I feel like a lot of, potential second generation, man, we're a little scarred because like we've been in it a long time by the time we come of age to really figure anything out. And man, we just know too much. You know what I mean? We know too much about the long nights, about people stopping by the house to talk about a job when you're sitting there eating dinner, and just, some of those things. So it can be discouraging. It can leave a bad taste in your mouth. So I actually was supposed to go into completely different industry. I worked throughout high school and that type of thing. I worked other jobs. I worked for a government contractor. As an intern when I was in high school, I went to our local tech center for computer networking, enrolled in our local community college, even left the family business for a while because I was working there throughout high school. But me and my mom got in a tiff one day, and she said some things, I said some things, and I slammed the door and I left. It was real awkward, a couple hours later when I had to go home, after that interaction. So, that's always kind of one of our favorite
Business wise,
stories
we are
to
dead,
share.
but we're still good for dinner, right, mom?
Yeah. You're making dinner still, right? Because I'm starving. So yeah, we always laugh about that one because it was an awkward couple months. You know what I mean? But worked a couple other places. Did a bunch of other things, just kind of trying to find my way, figured out. Um, my one government contractor job that I was working at, the work was slowing down a little bit. They really didn't need my help as much, cut my hours a little bit. Mom was busier than you know what at the shop. So on the days that I wasn't working there, I said, hey, you know what? I'll come back. She had her production person quit, leave, whatever happened. So I came back a couple of days a week, just kind of rolled right back in because I knew exactly what to do. Rolled back in, started working again. And soon enough, I stopped working at the government contractor, working at the shop full time. This was probably late 2008. We had some hard conversations about the location we were in, where most of our customers were coming from at the time. And we figured out we had to move the shop. We had an opportunity to get a little more road frontage, move to a different style building, just a couple benefits that we thought would kind of help us. And so in early 2009, we moved. I was still working a couple other jobs at that time, and I was also working at Hilltop, full-time hours. So I was burning the candle at both ends hard.
Yeah. And it's awesome at that time, but man, does it wear on you.
Tell you, I learned I was 19, and man, being 19, and man, you can run on 4 hours of sleep, and you don't care. You don't think about it. You don't think about anything else. You're just like, man, I'm grinding, I'm making money. Who cares? I can sleep when I'm dead. After about a year-ish of doing that, year and a half of doing that, I felt it big time. And my focus was divided. I kind of started to grow up a little bit, kind of realize those things, and Hilltop wasn't doing fantastic. I mean, there was one point in time, me and Mom were sitting in her office and we had $5 in the account. And I was like, why do we have $5 in the account? Like, I am cranking out work every time I'm here. Like every day that I'm here, I'm cranking out work. You're cranking out work. Like we have business, we have good customers that believe in this place and come back. And I just couldn't figure it out. And then I figured out that we had a really, really high accounts receivable, which I feel like that's just a sign industry play. Anybody I talk to struggles with it.
Oh, it's painful. It's so painful. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that in a second. But yeah, continue on.
Yeah, but so figured out we had lots of customers that they were coming in, picking stuff up, not bad. So first order of business, had to get some money in the account. You can't run when you got $5 in the account. So called low hanging fruit, got some invoices paid, got bills paid. We were back in the races, and we slowly started making some changes like that were just common sense changes. But my mom couldn't do it all by herself. So with me coming in and really putting more effort in, putting more hours in, concentrating my effort, we were able to make a big change. And, it wasn't an overnight thing, but things slowly started to smooth out a little bit. And then shortly after that, I would say, 6 months, something like that, we had another conversation, and it was, we had a bad day. It was just, we were getting beat up left and right. And she came to me, and, I'm in the production department, cranking stuff out, tunes rolling, like we all do. And she came to me and she was just like, I'm done. Either you buy it or someone else will. And she left for the day. And I was like,
Yeah, at that stage of the game, it is no longer pizza and beer money. This is a headache and I want out.
Yeah. Well, and 2007 through 2009, 2010 was hard.
That was hell. I'll call it hell because I'll tell you what, my company, we were negative $750,000 in the hole. We weren't even zero. We dug a hole to China. And I remember my dad walking in going, hey, clean your resume up. I got to close these doors. And I was like, let me have a crack at this. This is not how I go out. And it was 2015 till we hit ground zero again. I mean, that was gnarly. So 07 was ugly. I call that hell, man. That was. And obviously I'm not alone. It was a rough one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we, I would say probably 2010 when we had some of those hard conversations and started talking like that. It got to the point where I was like, okay, what are we doing and what do I want to do? We didn't eliminate really anything starting out in about 2010. We just started to dial in what we wanted to offer specifically. I was pretty much running the shop, but we were still doing gifts, we were still doing printing, we were still doing all these various services that we had always done. We were just really starting to bump up things on the signage and graphics front. We were starting to do installs. We were starting to, I learned how to use LED. I had a couple really good distributors that we signed up with. Whole nother tangent. One or two that are not in business now because they were bought out by a very large distributor that we all use now.
Yeah, that starts with the letter G. Yeah, got it.
Yes.
I'm
But
gonna throw it out there. By any chance, was that Interstate?
it was not. It was
Okay.
not. It was a Pioneer Supply Company.
Okay.
Is who, and it was actually a couple of the guys, Dave Snellings and Larry. I forget Larry's last name, but really good dudes. Literally, we're like, I called them one day and I was like, hey, I got this opportunity to quote a customer on this. They called me out of the blue. I wanted to get this job done. And I know, I have a basic of understanding about electrical work and LEDs and 12-volt systems and all these things just because I'm naturally curious. But in terms of specific products and how to use them, I'd never done it. So I called them and I was like, hey, I need an estimate. And also, how the heck do you use these things? You got some install guides, something, and they said, look, man, how about this? Why don't you come up to our office? We'll train you. We'll show you exactly how the systems work. We'll show you the product that you're speccing. We'll show you
That's
everything.
huge. That's so big.
And we'll buy you lunch. So that's what I did. And so what we ended up doing what I ended up doing was figuring out that nobody in my immediate area was doing everything. And by everything, I mean, no one was designing your sign, permitting it, fabricating it, installing it, and then giving you some type of a warranty or a guarantee on that installation. And then if something went wrong, 6 months, 2 years, 6 years, whatever, were they servicing it and staying with you through the lifespan of that sign? Nobody was doing all of those things start to finish. We had shops that would do 3/4 of it. We also had shops that would do the electrical sign portion, but when you needed a vehicle wrap for the same company or a door decal or an interior sign or whatever it happened to be, they were like, oh, well, you got to go to so-and-so for that because I don't do that. So the big shift that I made was like, man, we're going to be a one-stop shop for that stuff. We want to be somewhere where a customer comes in and they're like, hey, this is my logo. I'm opening up a storefront. I got 2 trucks. I need all the stuff and I have no idea where to start. So that was our big goal, was just to be able to take care of the customer start to finish. And that's kind of where we started.
So I'm gonna back up a little bit. You had some great points on that one. I called out Interstate Electric, just like you called out you're the Pioneer wholesaler, because they helped you. Like they straight trained you, helped you, made sure you were a success. Interstate Electric's no longer around. They got gobbled up. But I will tell you what, in 2010, when we were $750,000 in hold, everybody put us on credit hold except for Interstate. And for 7 years, from 2010 to 27, we bought 95% of all of our material from Interstate Electric. Aluminum. And I'm a $5.5 million shop. And I bought everything: paint, aluminum. It didn't matter, man. What if I needed it, came from Interstate. And they floated us for those 5 years. And I told them, I said, hey, we're back in the black. We can do terms. But since you guys have been so cool to us, I'm going to float it for another 2 years just to say thank you. And we stayed with them for 2 years. And even then, we worked with them all the way to the end. And it's just, those wholesalers make companies. They literally make companies. And I gotta give props to him, and anybody that's out there that's listening to this, that's still was part of Interstate. Thank you. I'm gonna tell you right now, thank you very much, because man, that saved us. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Interstate Electric. I'll give him that one.
Yeah. No, I had very, very similar experiences, and even to be honest with you, even the company that we mentioned by first letter earlier, when we first signed up with them, I mean, it was a very similar experience. I had a rep come down. I had terms, and nobody would give me terms. Like, 'cause I was shoot, man. When these companies were starting to give me terms, or I was starting to request these things, because we were cash everything. That
Sure.
credit cards and not. But when I first started talking to them, I mean, they were one of the first ones to offer me terms. They said, "Yeah, no problem, we'll offer you terms," and that was a game changer for us as well. So I can't speak completely bad about some of the bigger guys who have grown and been successful. Because back in the day when we were young and scrappy, and nobody would give me terms or a credit card or anything, they were one of the ones who did. And that made a big difference.
And it's funny too, because you get on forums and stuff, and you look, and everybody's always bagging on the big wholesalers and whatnot. But you got to understand, we are asking them to be Amazon without the billions and billions behind it. We are so spoiled by Amazon's get it in 4 hours that we don't place an order till the day before. Like, I got to cut the wholesalers a lot of slack on this one. I'm saying, guys, 5 days, in all honesty, is still very impressive for you to order a part, they have the part, and then get it to your place of business in 5 days. That's impressive. So this overnight stuff, man, I think that we've got a little too spoiled as an industry.
Yeah. I mean, I have one of my other distributors that we get stuff from regularly now, and they deliver to us 2 days a week.
Mhm.
Man, I tell you what, some days I give them a ration of what, because I'm like, I really need this. You can't get it to me tomorrow, and they're like, no, your delivery day is Thursday. We'll have it to you Thursday, and it's like, that's 2 days. I gotta wait 2 days. That's ridiculous. But you're 100% right. I mean, we are super spoiled with the convenience and next day shipping for free on so many different pieces and parts. And when we can take advantage of it, of course we do. But we've even had internal conversation here in the last couple of years where we have relationships with lots of vendors, but we have one or two that, yeah, they might not get to us the fastest, or they might be a couple bucks more than what the other guy is. But we hang there because it's like, man, if I had a project where I absolutely needed something, they'll split the cost of a courier running something down same day to me. Or, one of my other reps, he's in the Midwest. He flew out here last year because he wanted to shake our hands. He wanted to take us out to lunch. Like, he wanted to say thank you for our continued business. And he's he's a rep in a bigger company.
Sure.
But the level of customer service and care that he gives us, and we're relatively small fish, but it's like, man, sometimes that's worth spending another $10 per roll, another, $15 on a bag of ink, or whatever it is.
Yep.
It's worth spending a little bit more because you're supporting those who support you and give you the service and the value that you need.
Mm-hmm. No, it's so funny. On one side of the fence, we were talking about relationships and the relationships we want to have with our customers, and yet the relationships with our wholesalers are not nearly as good as relationships with our customers. And that's something, the more I stare at that, I'm like, I need to fix that, because it's going to bite me in the butt sooner rather than later if I don't have that relationship.
Yeah, and I think with some, like, that's hard, because if you're with a company who, you're flopping reps every 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, whatever it happens to be, if you're not able to build that long-term trust,
Agreed.
then it's hard.
It is.
But if you find somebody who they've been with the company a while, they really love the sign industry, and they love what they do, they love their customers, man, hang on to them. Hang on to them. like I said, even if it's a couple dollars more, call them. I
Yep,
mean, even if you have to
I
physically
agree.
pick up the phone versus going to an automated cart, yes, the automated cart is convenient, but I bet you that rep will be very thankful for you calling them and placing the order.
No, it's true. It's funny. We got a new Square Coil is doing a whole new relaunch, redesign. We've been building a whole new system, and one of the toys in it, we've always had a shopping list where if you have like 5 projects go live and they all have like 090 aluminum in them, you could buy them economy scale, add it all together, and say, hey, you need 264 square feet or 300 square feet. We have just put a new system in place that we're launching with the new launch is it'll show you the last 3 vendors you bought it from, how many times you bought from this vendor, and what the price was the last time you bought it from this vendor. And so I can see that, oh, I've been, buying from, Piedmont for the last 19 times, but then I bought from Glance 2 times and I bought from Monterey 1 time, or wherever who your wholesalers are. I'm just making stuff up
Right,
right
right,
now.
right.
But it shows you all that and what your price was. So if you get a new purchaser in your company, they're not starting from square one. So it's definitely adding a level of sophistication to make everyone's lives easier.
Yeah, yeah. No, that sounds like a fantastic tool. I mean, I feel like, I mean, we have totally struggled with it over the years, where like purchasing and POs and tracking things accurately, and man, it would take a dedicated person sometimes to do the cost analysis of one particular product over the course of a year if you order it, 100 times, and keep track of that and, do all those analytics. And, but I mean, having tools like that available to where it just does it for you. It just runs the data, and um, we're definitely one of those shops that is heavily looking at new software and different integrations and, automations to not necessarily replace people, because we don't want to do that. But if it enables us to handle more volume, to provide a better level of care, to maybe take some stress off my people or myself, selfish in that way, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, there's only one of us. There's only one of us. Oh no, it's true. And we haven't finished this part of it yet. It's still in beta testing, but we have AI built into it now. And so just last week I was sitting there typing in what material should I put on mid max levels because we use so much. And it was starting to come back and grab and data and say, hey, you bought this 4 times in the last 90 days. You should have a mid max level on this. And so the AI tooling inside of Squircle is starting to cough that up and tell us these things. So we don't even have to try anymore. You just ask it questions, it'll tell the answers. So the purchasing, I agree with you. The purchasing is one of the weakest links in the industry right now, and it's so difficult. And if we can just automate that and clean it up and then sync to one of the big boys where we can literally see what their inventory is, what's on hand, what's, a couple days out. And so then the system can say, hey, you better order it now because it's 2 weeks out, or you can order it here, it's a week out. And the system can start telling you that, hey, you're going to miss your mark if you don't have it in sight by this. That's the next evolution that we're building right now, because it's painful. It's so painful. And you got to have a purchaser. And that guy is literally, a guy or gal, they're taking the new orders. They're trying to make a list. They're running outside to receive orders. They're trying to figure out what they received, what they didn't receive, running back, putting the packing slip. Like, that's a lot of work if you're a bigger shop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'll bring up, I mean, even, you know, during COVID, or rather, this was immediately before. Like, I'm talking first week of March 2020. The only reason why we knew anything might be getting ready to happen, obviously, you watch the newscast, you see some stuff happening on the other side of the world. You might not pay as much attention to it, but then other people start talking. You're like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. Well, us sign guys, we go to the Facebook groups, and we see rumors flying and everything else. And I just happened to see a post come up from somebody who said, hey, can anybody, is anybody having trouble sourcing, 3M 180, CV3, or, this particular product or whatever? And they're like, I can usually get it next day, no problem, plenty of inventory. But I called my local, warehouse, and they said they had 2 rolls. It's kind of weird, kind of strange. I saw 2 other people within 20 minutes post other very similar things. And I picked up the phone. I called one of my distributors and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Why is everybody posting saying that, inventory levels are low and everything else? And he's like, man, I'm not going to sugarcoat it or lie to you. He said, stuff is flying out the door right now. He said, I just had a guy that usually he places 1-2 orders a week. He just ordered pallets because he needs to keep going and nobody knows what's going to happen. And so I literally got off the phone with that distributor. I looked at 2 of my other people in the shop. I said, you take these 2, you take these 2, I'll take these. We called all of our distributors and we spent $17,000 in product in like 45 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
and it's, for a small company like us, it was
That's a lot of money.
nerve-wracking. It was a lot of money.
So I'm definitely not playing the trump card here, but just size, percentages wise, I bet you and I played the same percentage. We spent $250,000 on March 10th. The infamous day was March 12th or 13th. March
Yep.
10th, we got wind of it. I had a whole Ryerson truck come down from LA. It was a full 18-wheeler of aluminum. 050, pre-coated, 090, 125, stick, square tube. I loaded it. It took me 7 months to chew through all that product, but I never told my client no, I couldn't do it. And I didn't even think about this at the time. I was just protecting my own rear end. I ended up using that aluminum as currency to trade for vinyl with other sign shops. It's something you never think about, that the almighty dollar's gone, but I'm literally trading skins and furs like it's the old days.
That's right. That's right. We all would, all of us joke about, the value of the dollar and all this kind of stuff and knowing how to barter and trade and everything. But man, I tell you what, when it hit the fan back then, I mean, there was a lot going on. We were trading for masks and hand sanitizer and you name it. We couldn't get alcohol. So I was going to the liquor store down the daggone street and buying, Everclear, 99% grain alcohol. And, we did a lot of things then that we were just like, never in a million years did we think that we would do. Just like buying 17 grand worth of inventory in one run.
Yeah, so much money.
Just want to take a moment to talk about Square Coil here. Square Coil has been powering the signage industry since 2011, and we're only growing bigger and better and stronger every single day. Some of the latest updates have just made my life a lot easier. I'm sure it's going to make your life a lot easier. So if you haven't checked us out, go ahead and get on our website, squarecoil.com. Take a look. And if you have an outdated key, an old software program that's going to be closing its doors this year, definitely take a look at us because we can make that transition real simple for you. Take a look, squarecoil.com.
But I'm gonna pivot this because there's a really cool thing that your company did that I really want to talk about here, and I want all the listeners to hear this. In 2019, you had a 3-day brainstorming session, and I really want you to dive deep in why did you even decide to do that? How did it go down? And then what was the end goal of that? Because this is pivotal in your company. And this is pivotal, I think, in a lot of sign companies that need to do it, or they kind of half-assed it and didn't really do it all the way they should have. So I want to hear all this.
Yeah. So I'm not going to take credit for the idea. I got a buddy of mine who, I used to play music with. And at the time, he was double my age, a lot smarter, a lot wiser than I was. And him and I would sit down outside of playing music together every once in a while. And we would just hash problems, struggles, strategies, ideas. And man, he embarked a couple really good processes, a really good kind of kernels of wisdom on me. And one of them was how to kind of solve problems in a very almost microscopic way, because him and I were talking one day about, I don't know, the cost of employee retention or something of that nature. And he's like, do you know what it costs to replace an employee? And I'm like, I gave the standard, oh, well, it depends, type of employee, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, yeah, it's probably about, $2,000 or something like that, whatever. And he's like, okay. He's like, how'd you come up with that? I'm like, well, a little bit of labor time, a little bit of materials, wasted, there you go. And he said, okay, well, do you provide the employee shirts? Oh, well, yeah. Do you give them a truck to drive? Well, yeah. What about tools? Oh, yeah, they probably get a little bit of tools. And we just went down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden that $2,000 of what I thought that it cost to replace an employee ended up being like $6,000. And he was like, when you are approaching a problem, you're solving a problem, he said, you have to get stupid with it. You have to look at every little piece and part. He said, I don't care if you're providing them all their tools or one of their tools. If you're providing them a t-shirt or a badge holder for their employee name tag, he's like, I don't care. He said, but all of those pieces and parts have a cost. And you better be accounting for all those things if you're going to know whether it's important to keep a person or not. He's like, and that's just one problem that we solve for on a regular basis. But what I learned from him, and the piece that really, really matters here, is he taught me how to think about solving problems differently and how to look at all the individual pieces and parts differently. He also taught me how to figure out if a problem was worth solving, because not all problems are. You might just waste your time, waste a lot of money. So long and short of it, he taught me that process. And one of the other questions that he asked me is, he said, who is your ideal customer? Who are the customers that come in that don't really question your pricing that often? They know what they want to a certain degree. And if problems happen along the way, they work with you. They understand these things come up. He said, you need to outline who that is, because when he asked me that question, kind of hemmed and hawed at the answer. It was, oh, well, I couldn't really define it. Not well enough. I could not define it well enough. And so what that launched us into, and we had many, many whiteboard sessions brainstorming and looking at problems different ways. But essentially what it launched us into is a very, very simple way of looking at it. We outlined several different types of customers because we figured out that we have different customers, different types of customers, and they're all good customers, but they have to be served different. And so what we ended up doing was we broke those ideal customers, those A/B customers, if you will, into different categories based upon their spend level, what type of products they usually purchased, that type of stuff. And what that enabled us to do is to figure out how to provide value to those individual types of customers. We didn't get wild with it. There were like 3 different types of ideal customers, but we figured out roughly what we thought that they were looking for based upon our experience. And we figured out how we could provide more. I mean, if we're sitting here and we're trying to charge a premium price, we know we're using good products, we know that we're doing a good job installing, we know that we're doing all these things. Well, what's to set us apart from Joe Blow sign guy down the street out of his garage that might be using the same products? Maybe he's providing a similar warranty or that type of thing. So we had to really, really look at it and figure out ways that we could provide more. And that's just always been kind of a driving thing, is how do we provide more value? How do we provide enough value that the customer feels good about what they're paying for? And that's hard.
That right there, just that exercise that you guys went through, I would vote that less than 20% of the sign companies on the planet have ever done that. Because when you get into it, you're just scrambling for more market share. And you never stop to think, do I even want this customer? Is this trending in the right direction for our profit margins, what we're doing correctly? Like, it is such a different way to look at the industry. And I will tell you that I got caught up in that for a long time, market share. I didn't care what they wanted. I was going to sell it to them. And it's really not a smart business plan. And for you guys to do that and really sit down and say, okay, who's our ABC clients? What do those look like? How do we get more A clients and less C clients? and to start to change how you guys advertise and how you, I mean, that's just, dude, so commendable. Like I'm so happy that we're talking about this because not many people hear this, that you need to take a really pessimistic look at your company and say what's really working and what's not working and not lie to yourself. You know, it's difficult to do as an owner, especially if you came from the sales world. Everything's optimistic and we're always going to pull it off. You know, 4th down and 50 to go, we're going to pull it off. Don't you worry. You know,
That's
we always
right.
have an optimistic feel, but the reality is no. You're in that 50-50 land. It could go right, it could go bad. So I love it. So now you've had that. What was because we could talk about this for hours. Give me your biggest aha moment coming out of that 3-day exercise.
Coming out of that 3-day exercise, we figured out, obviously, like I said, who we thought our ideal customers were. But I think what it also gave us is it gave us things to try. There were obviously lots of pieces and parts that we thought we knew something about them, but maybe we didn't have enough information. Maybe we didn't have a way to even gather the information. It launched us down a path of searching for types of projects that all of us love to do and customers that we loved to work with and who liked working with us. And it helped us to look at jobs like that and look at what we really wanted to do as a company a little bit more subjectively. And I'm telling you, like you said, we were a company that we didn't say no to anything. I mean, I have picked up trash in company trucks because a property manager called me and needed it done. We have flushed, drains and vacant, you name it, man. Just oddball stuff to keep the bills paid. We've done it. And it really made us look at who we wanted to be as a company, who we wanted to serve, and what type of projects really lit us up. And it's been years. It's been a long time. And it took us years to really, really start to gain traction. But we're working with architects now that trust our recommendations. And in fact, one of the you're talking about pivotal things that really, really made a difference. We went through all that whiteboarding, scratching our heads, beating our head against the wall, all these exercises. And one big thing that I wrote across the top of the board after this couple days was, we want to be an authority. An authority. That was the buzzword in our region for what we do. We want to be a resource. We don't just want to sell. Like, that's just not what we're after. We want to be an authority. We want to be a resource. And of course, we want to do business with these people, but we want to be able to provide value, and we're doing that. We are consulting with architects and GCs at the design phase. We are working with them up front to make sure that what they design and what they spec can actually be built, and that they're in compliance with ADA standards and looking at what your state highway requires you to have. And I mean, looking at the simple stuff in terms of design principles, like, are you using a letter height chart to make sure that they're big enough to be read from where you want it to be read from? We look at all these various things that if you're an architect or a designer or a general contractor or whoever, and signage is just not your game, you might not know all these things or consider all these things. You design something that looks pretty and that the customer loves, but maybe it can't be built. Maybe it's not a good sign. So we look at all those various things now, and all of that stemmed from all of our past experience, writing it down, troubleshooting it on that whiteboard, and then periodically coming back and revisiting it and making sure that the things that we wrote down still mattered and were still important. And man, I tell you what, a lot of those things we wrote down 6-7 years ago, we still do it today. They're still part of what we do when we look at jobs and how we take care of customers and what we're looking to do moving into the future. Some of those things are still there.
That's absolutely awesome. And that's, you hear these little tidbits of information. Look at your bottom line. Look what it does here. Figure out how this works or that works. And you don't really get the big picture. But hopefully the people listening here get that you need to unplug from your business for a couple of days and truly stare at what it is and what void do we need to fill. And if you're one of 50 different sign companies in your little town, it's probably not the good place for you to be. You're probably going to have to go to these higher end clients. You're going to have to find a new niche where there's less competition, because you got enough competition. All you're doing is driving yourself to the bottom. And it's rough. It really is. And to, recognize what your niches are and what you were just talking about, and recognize, hey, this is my niche. This is what I do best. I don't know about everybody else, but I know this is what I do best. Let's focus on this and double down here. That's where you're really going to start moving mountains. It really is. And
the hardest part for us is that, and sometimes those big projects that you really want, that you feel like you can really deliver and dig in, salt and get paid for your time and stuff, sometimes they don't come. And sometimes you have to go back to kind of your roots, because, man, you still have employees, you still have overhead. That brand new bucket truck that you decided to buy because you were like, we'll figure it out. Well, I tell you what, that payment still comes due every month on the exact same day, and you better pay the bill or else they're coming to get it. So, I think that there is a balance there where, we did all of that work that long ago. I mean, it seems like forever ago, and it's taken years for us to be able to gain traction there. And there's been lots of times where we've made mistakes. We've gone backwards. We've had to borrow money. We've gone in the hole. I mean, it's part of it, man. But I tell you what, there's been lots of times where I've wanted to give up. I'm like, man, this is for the birds. Like, this is just, it's hard. It's harder than it should be. And I've been really, really blessed with a really solid team, a great family who, you get down, man, and you're just ready to throw it in and go get a job for somebody else. Cause working at 7-Eleven's got to be easier than this. And, I've been lucky that I have had a lot of people around me who are like, come on, man, we just got to get through the next 2 weeks. I mean, my ops manager, Scott, I mean, I'll give it to him, man, especially when COVID hit. And there was a couple days there where I did not have a plan. I did not have a plan. And him and I sat down, and it's like, dude, all we got to do is survive 7 days. If we can survive 7 days, halfway through that, we'll make a plan for the next 7 days. And we'll get through that, and we'll make another one. And sometimes if big jobs that you're hunting, or, the ideal customers that you wrote down, if they're not coming yet and everything else, sometimes you have to do that. You have to make that 7-day plan to get yourself through. But I tell you what, if you keep working that same plan, eventually it'll work.
yeah, no, it's the discipline right there. That's the discipline. And that's what separates the owners from the workers, is the owners, even though they want to give up, they don't. I've been there 100%. My wife's the only one that knows I wanted to quit. I would never tell anybody else, but I've come home going, this is done. Like, I'm over this. And the next day, she'll put a smile on your face and do it all again.
It might be insanity, but, I mean, all of us.
Yeah, I'm sure Freud's got something to say about this.
No, I tell you, we have a running joke here. And if anybody's an old school Christmas claymation, movie buff, they'll understand the references that we always say when we have new people come in and join the organization. We're like, look, we're like the island of misfit toys. We're all a little broken. We're a little different, discarded, whatever. But man, when we all come together, we create some pretty cool stuff. And we're a good team, and we support each other. And it's like, man, I feel like the sign industry in general is kind of like that. We're a ragtag bunch, man. Like, we're
a motley crew for sure. There's no doubt about it. Yep, I agree, 100%. Same inside my four walls.
Yeah. But man, we can come up with some cool stuff, and we can push out some really unique, creative projects. And I think that is the big thing that I love about the industry, and that it took me a really, really long time to kind of figure out. Is it's like, Man, there ain't nowhere else I feel like that you can do what we do in this industry with as many different options and products and types of customers. And man, it's like if you get tired, if you are a graphic shop and man, you're burnt out on doing vehicle wraps, add something else, add a different product, start doing something a little bit different. I mean, the industry is so vast and so wide that
It's
if you get
huge.
burnt out on something, just pivot just a little teeny bit. You already got a designer, you already got the machines.
Mhm.
Just put a little bit different spin on it, and it'll freaking light you back up, man. It will light you back up.
Those are great words. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about us, your past and what you guys have done there. I mean, when you and I talked about that 2019, that 3-day thing, man, I started drooling over this. I was like, God, everybody needs to do this. Like, that's how you keep your company running and you don't burn out, to stay focused on what really, truly matters and cut the noise out. So thank you for sharing all that. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. See you.